Hey, Professor Wilson here. I want to talk to you all a little bit about the flatting process. This is the process by which we take the major components, the different areas within our drawing, and we separate them out into layers. This has a few advantages that it gives us that makes our painting process down the road a little bit easier. It doesn't usually take too long, and it's not a terribly creative process. It's just kind of mindlessly filling in these spaces and setting up a layer hierarchy. But once it's done, it's really helpful, and it just makes the rest of the process so much simpler. So what you're going to do is you're going to find these things or elements that have the same local color. In this case, I'm painting in the skin. So I've set up a new layer. This is going to be the skin layer, and I'm going through and hand painting all of the skin. So going through carefully, painting all the way up to the edge, and just making a solid fill for all of the areas of skin. When I do this, I also try to make sure that when I fill in, when I'm coloring in, when I'm on the edge, I try to overlap or, cover up as much of the line work as I can without actually going over it. So you'll see also in my kind of layer hierarchy, I go and I put this layer up on top, up above my line art layer, and then I start filling in. It lets me cover up the internal details, focus on just kind of filling in the space, and it lets me know how much I'm painting over that black line work. Because again, I don't want to exceed it, but I do want to kind of come into that space. I want to cover it up just a little bit. When it's done, and I've taken this, in this case I'm doing the net, when this net is done, I'll have a separate layer, then I'll put that back underneath my line layer. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to do this for all the different components. So I try to think of things that are either individual objects, or I try to think of individual, anything that has like a particular color. Sometimes you'll have something that you'll want to subdivide, and that's totally fine. You can make as many divisions as you want. It's really up to you how many divisions you want to make. This is how I would start it. I might make more subdivisions if I feel like I need to. Ultimately, what this is going to be designed to do, it's going to allow us to command click on the thumbnail of the layer and basically make a selection. And that selection will allow us to paint only within the area of that layer. The other thing we can also do is do something like an alpha channel, where we can select the alpha channel and then just paint on pixels that already exist on that particular layer. It's just really nice. You can make broad sweeping strokes without it ever going outside of the area that you've determined. So if you think about it in a way, it's kind of like you're just making a bunch of masks. That's really what you're doing. You're just kind of masking everything out into separate layers. But I find it's really convenient. It's really helpful. And it will go a long way to making the process of doing the value studies a lot easier. It just makes the painting process more fun because you don't have to be quite so delicate, because you'll have things isolated. You'll be able to make some broader strokes. It's one of the advantages of digital painting, so might as well make a good use of it. So you can see here I've separated the spearhead from the spear itself because the shaft is probably going to be wood, a wood shaft, and then each of the components for the nozzle at the bottom and the spearhead at the top, separate those out into different layers. Doing the hair, separating that out. You'll notice I didn't separate out the eyes or the eyebrows or the lips. You could, but again, you want to be economical with your time. You don't want to spend too much time doing this, but enough that it's going to be, advantageous. Eventually, you'll come to figure out what it is that works best for you. How many different components do you want to separate? How many are you happy to keep all together? So once you have this process all done, then you can go through and on those individual layers, you can adjust those values to try to create a basic pattern of what you want to be light and what you want to be dark. Get that problem solved, and then you'll be ready to go into the next step, which will be to actually do the value studies, where we'll begin to figure out what direction we want the light to come from. You can see here testing it and then applying those local values. What's going to be really dark, what's going to be light, etc. And there you have it.